Welcome back to Astro Love Painter. This is your astrologer, NahSeh. So I am going to be doing something different from now on. I am doing an entire forecast for the month of September instead of bi-monthly reports. You can still listen to your horoscope for your centric sign. And if you don't know what a centric sign is, or if you're a centric person, I have a Leo rising, and my first house is Virgo. So I will listen to horoscopes that are about Leos and Virgos. And depending on the transiting planets and the degrees of them, I can look in my chart and see how that's affecting me, because it's rarely about your sun sign. Your sun doesn't always land in your first house. I do have a tutorial that you can watch which teaches you how to get your very own natal chart off of astro.com, and it's free. I always suggest that you have that printed out and available, so as I move through these reports, you can mark down the degrees of these planets. I'm not going to give a whole lot of exacting degrees on this report because there's a lot to get through, but I will be showing you screenshots of each chart, and you can always pause the video, look at the degrees of what's going on and what I'm discussing, and look at it in your own chart and see how that affects you. So soon I'm going to be releasing a new project, and it's a new Facebook group. It's a free group, but it's closed for specific discussion around guiding you to find your very personal and your individualized blueprint in your chart of your soul purpose. And I will help guide you through breaking down the belief systems around the things that are keeping you from moving forward. So I will be sending out newsletters, and you'll see it on social media everywhere when I do release that in the coming weeks. So let's begin with September, which starts with a review because Mercury is retrograde. And actually, let's go back to the Leo solar eclipse, because we have an overlap of energy. We're beginning something new with this Leo solar eclipse, but we are also closing out the Pisces solar eclipse that happened back in February. So the August 21st Leo solar eclipse energized the 28-degree point of Leo. That is almost at a critical degree. 29 degrees is the critical degree. So this is a point of action that is forever going to change your trajectory. Anytime a planet crosses that 28-degree point in Leo, during the 6-month cycle, it's going to reactivate that Leo solar eclipse energy. This eclipse was also conjunct the fixed Persian star Regulus, which is believed to be attached to royalty and delivering karma towards those who have an intent of revenge. As I said before, September starts with a review because Mercury is retrograde, and that retrograde began on August 12th, which was right before that solar eclipse in Leo. It will go direct on September 5th, just before the full moon in Pisces. Mercury went retrograde while it was just ahead of the Sun at 11 degrees Virgo. And when it started to retrograde backwards towards the Sun, we had Mars at the other end moving through Leo. So we have these two energies, Mercury retrograding, and then we have Mars moving forward, all energized in Leo, and they're both heading towards the Sun. And then on August 22nd, Mercury lined up with the Sun, and then it passed. So September 1st. In this chart, it shows that Mercury retrograded back into Leo, while Mars was at 27 degrees of Leo, and Mercury was at 29. So they were both just a degree apart from that eclipse point. Mercury and Mars then join up on September 3rd at the 28-degree point of the eclipse. So remember that Mercury is this clever communicator. It's about trade and information, back and forth of money, goods, services, conversation. Actually reminds me of like the floor of the stock exchange. But Mercury was very at home in Virgo, unlike when it moves into Leo, because it acted like a scout. It was gathering information, and then it headed back to that eclipse point. So it wasn't very chatty, but it's very exact in micromanagement. Like, and then Mercury in Leo can be this romantic and presenting in a flowery verbiage, while Mars, the planet of war, is this intense, fiery, angry red planet. So when they line up at it, then it's this action and thought exchange of information, but there could be angry words. So be very mindful. Mercury retrograde, right? Be very mindful. So that's on the 3rd. And then the whole beginning of September, Mercury was retrograding and it aligned with Mars, forming a trine with Uranus at 28 degrees of Aries. And remember, Uranus is preparing to move into Taurus. And this is going to be a change in the money system. And that'll come to play later on when we talk about Jupiter. So Uranus at the 28th degree of Aries, and this reactivated the Leo solar eclipse again. Mars and Uranus are this very young masculine energy that like to just charge in and react quickly. Uranus can be quite unpredictable. It is sudden events, sudden changes that seem to come out of nowhere. The god of war is lining up with the unpredictable. And then Mars is also our passion and drive. So since the eclipse triggered natural disasters, which they do often, this could be a repeat. And then we have on September 4th, the sun moving into an exact opposition to Neptune. So the sun moves around the natal chart in 365 days. And although so then the sun is in Virgo opposite Neptune. Sun is this detail-oriented energy, very exacting, focused energy, opposing a very dissolving and nebulous energy. So this can bring about some disillusionment. Pisces dissolves boundaries. Neptune dissolves the illusion of the edge of things so that we are able to see our collective oneness. This is connected to the moon, which is coming for our full moon. And though the moon is the archetype of our emotional expression and our intuitive spirit, it is very much where we transmute energy as it moves through us as, being a conduit. In a natal chart, this aspect would show a very highly evolved psychic talent. Then moving on to September 5th, Mars will enter Virgo and Mercury prepares to station direct after 3 weeks of retrograde. Mercury is just sitting there and steeping in all that eclipse energy as it's turning direct, and Mars was all out in the open while it was in Leo, airing the dirty laundry and just speaking off the cuff, and now frustrations will be boiling up and pouring out and having to be dealt with. But Mars is not as happy or as active in Virgo because it doesn't express outwardly as much. It turns inward and becomes a very focused, on its trajectory and its target. It is set on a narrowing path that feels restricting at first, but that's short-lived, just in a few days, and then that will pass, and you'll feel like you're getting, I don't know a better word than focus, because that's literally, I'm seeing the word coming across my eyesight. On September 6th at 12:02 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we have that Pisces full moon, which is conjunct Neptune, creating a polarity and a dichotomy between this exact precision and at times critical mindset of the Virgoan sun. It's very black and white in its totality, and then it's opposing the nebulous universal oneness and unconditional love and compassion of the Piscean moon. So this full moon is conjunct Neptune. Neptunian energy is also connected to deep waters, dreams, sirens, illusion, spirituality, transcendental meditation, and the ethereal. This is a prominent full moon because Neptune is only in its home sign for 13 years, And although we have a full moon in Pisces every year, this hasn't taken place with this conjunction since September 6th of 1854. This is a big deal. On September 9th, the Sun in Virgo trines Pluto in Capricorn, so this is harmonious. But the Sun is shining light into the things of the underworld, so there are things that are going to come up, and it's going to want you to look at it and review it before Pluto goes direct. Then Venus will be quincunxing Pluto, which is a 150-degree aspect, and that's a very uneasy and uncomfortable feeling. So Venus is going to be feeling very vulnerable and raw now that things have been exposed. On September 13th, Venus will trine Saturn. So this is a very grounded energy and has the storyline of someone who doesn't take relationships lightly. Now you know what is expected of you since that solar eclipse in Leo and the closing of that solar eclipse in Pisces. The grand fire trine is now dissipating by September 13th, but Venus picks up the trine as the Sun, Mercury, and Mars have moved on from it, and it gives the understanding and a sense of the value of delayed gratification, things worth waiting for. This is the last personal or fast-moving planet of this stellium to move through that grand fire trine, and it's also moved through that eclipse point. So Sun squares Saturn on the 13th as well, and that's a reality check. Or rather, that is not on the 13th. Well, all of these planets that will be in a trine as they move through this grand fire trine in Saturn, within 10 to 15 days, each will be squaring Saturn. So there's a lot of reality checks coming in. If you've been listening to and heeding your Saturn lessons, then this is the promise of rewards. If you want to look back to our last Saturn retrograde, I even have a meme I created for this where I talk about the archetype of Saturn, and this is where Santa Claus comes in. And although St. Nicholas was a real person, and there's truth to the storyline, it blew up into this big fat man in a sleigh and it going around the world. So actually, that's Saturn moving around the natal chart. And when he goes into his retrograde motion, that's when, quote unquote, Santa Claus is checking his list, checking it twice to make sure and see if you've been naughty or nice. And then he delivers your reward. So this is very karmic. This is actually such a beautiful time. I personally am so excited for this. Hasn't all been fun, but I love the deep stuff. On September 16th, Mercury will meet with Mars again. On September 17th, Venus will trine Uranus. This is that in the moment, sudden leap of faith and desiring to break free kind of feeling. September 19th, the Sun will oppose Chiron. This is another annual opposition, and hopefully it will bring some breakthroughs. September 17th through the 19th, Venus will be moving over the eclipse point, bringing that energy inward to do the work, so you can hunker down and look at the details. By 8 p.m. on the 19th, it will shift into Virgo, and then 3 days after that, the Sun will move into Libra, making the autumnal equinox. Then on the 19th of September, we have the new moon in Virgo. That's at 10:29 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so this is the beginning of a whole new cycle. This is when Mercury will make its opposition to Neptune and Venus as trine Uranus. This is wanting to shift with all that knowledge that Mercury retrograde gathered in its review and all the reactivations of that eclipse point. So Venus is harmonizing with Uranus, but the new moon, which is new beginnings, is quincunx Uranus, which remember is very uncomfortable and annoying. On the 27th, Jupiter will be at 27 degrees in Libra, making an exact opposition to Uranus at 27 degrees Aries. Again, we have another polarity point And this is a 999. The 27th is a 9, 27 degrees Libra is a 9, and then Uranus at 27 degrees is a 9. So more endings here. All in preparation for Pluto to go direct. So this is a point that it has gone over before in its retrograde, and it's now revisiting. And that last happened in December of 2016. So this happens about every 13 years. This is speaking about a technological Uranian awareness, breakthroughs in technology, Uranus' sudden change, and Jupiter's expansion. With this expansion being grounded in the sextile to Saturn, it'll keep that energy from overwhelming the collective. On the 4th, this is just a review, guys, but some things I didn't go over before, but on the 4th, the Sun opposes Neptune. That's that polarity of small details in the big picture. This is about awareness. The Sun is awareness in evolutionary astrology. And then on the 14th, the Sun is going to square Saturn for a reality check. On the 19th, Mercury will oppose Neptune, which is our intellect. And then on the 25th, it's going to square Saturn again for another reality check. On the 24th, Mars will oppose Neptune, and he will not square Saturn until October 10th. So this is all about your energy and your action. On the 28th, Pluto finally goes direct. Yes, after 5 months of that. On the 29th, Venus will oppose Neptune. And this is all about what are our values and what are we attracting into our life. So there is a repetitive theme from this Leo solar eclipse. Planets reactivating the eclipse point. Then we have the personal planets reactivating the grand fire trine. Annual oppositions to Neptune by the Sun, Mercury, Mars, and then Venus. And then Pluto going direct on the 28th. Pluto is the lord of the underworld, and it rules psychotherapy. So this marks the end of the cycle, which began in February with the Pisces solar eclipse. Saturn going direct, that's more karma. So there's an interesting overlap of energies between the new you Leo solar eclipse and then this finale of deep inner work and these checklists. This is such a thorough 6-month journey and review. This internal journey has been in the works for 5 months as Pluto was retrograde out of the 6th month of that Pisces solar eclipse. So this brought to light all the internal power struggles, but really the meat of it is coming I'd say within a week after Mercury goes direct. So around the 19th and on. So that's bringing to light all those internal power struggles that we may have allowed others or one significant other or a situation or a thing to have on us. This is where those soul ties get broken and bonds from addictions get broken. This is going to be really big. It's quite ironic that the last pieces of this micromanagement Sun and Virgo are ending this cycle, because here we are trying to let go, and then we've got Neptune trying to show us the big picture and, release. And so this has been particularly difficult for the Virgo-centric people. I'm one of them. I've been in it with you. So now just breathe. Breathe. Release. Forgive. And let go. Namaste.